Welcome back to the Adventure Reignition Podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk about a very powerful subject, something that most aspiring and starting creators might be facing at this moment. Is this idea that you need to be an expert in order to start creating content. And by the end of this video, on this podcast episode, I want to show you that this is not the case and it is absolutely untrue. And I want to give you also a couple of content formats you can start using in order to start sharing their journey, your journey. And that's something I personally faced back in the days when I wanted to share more content online in front of the camera in 2020 or even in 2019. For a long time, even before that, in my childhood, I always had this creative thing that I wanted to express, but because I thought I wasn't good enough, I never really shared it publicly. It started in my teenage year when I was drawing Dragon Ball Z characters, but obviously, as I tried to make it better and better, I couldn't make it as good as I wanted, so I quit. I remember I started to do writing rap lyrics back in the days, but I never shared it because I never thought I was good enough to share with that. And that's only in 2015 when I seen a couple of creators online like Casey Neistat, Ben Brown, or Lewis Cole that were sharing their vlogs, their adventures, travel online, that it gave me this idea that I could do the same for me as I was about to go on a world tour travel in 2016. So I decided to buy my first ever camera so that I could document the journey. And it was really powerful because even if it was very uncomfortable to be in front of the camera the whole time and started to vlog, I did a couple vlogs, but it was really painful. I focused more on photography, and I remember I shared one photo a day for 1 year, and in this process it gives me the opportunity to practice the craft of photography and become a better photographer along my travel. So when I wanted to shift a bit more to speak in front of the camera like I'm doing now around 2020, it was really hard for me because I thought I had nothing to say, that my voice didn't matter and my stories or the expertise or the learnings, not the expertise, but more the learnings I want to share didn't matter because I wasn't the expert. And it's only around 2021 when a coach I had at the time challenged me to share my personal story online, live on Facebook, that even if I was really scared to do that and I've never done it publicly, it forces me to share my story. And despite the fear, despite having my voice being pretty shaky and having my heart popping out of my chest at the end of every sentence, it showed me that first, most people don't care about your story, and second, the people who do will lean in. So I received a couple of messages that were pretty kind and supportive. So it showed me that either most people don't care or the people who care will show interest. So in other way, you will attract the right people by sharing your own story. So then after that, it was just a journey of sharing more of my journey and looking back of my travel of 2016 and how I shared content online. It was pretty clear for me that I didn't need to be an expert in order to share content online, but I have to do the same as I did when I was traveling the world and sharing my photography and my journey, and focus on being the explorer instead. And that's what I learned around my journey as a content creator so far. Quick break from the podcast to let you know that I created the Explorer's Guide to create content online without being an expert, and it's free. It's based on this episode. You can grab it in the show notes below. Just click on the link, register, and get your free guide. Alright, back to the podcast. So here are 4 shifts that you can start implementing for yourself in order to start creating content with more ease, with more flow, and with more confidence. The first one is not to behave as an expert. We just talked about it. Most people want to start creating content being an expert, but when people do that, the problem with this is that you might feel inauthentic, completely disconnected from who you are, and you will have a very hard time connecting with your audience because you are just taking an angle that's not totally you. And like I said, instead of being the expert, try to be the explorer instead. And one big example of something that really helped me be in that position is starting a content right after I did my Facebook Live in 2021 was to start my podcast interviewing people around different subjects I was personally interested about. This helps me relieve the pressure of being the one producing all the content or being the expert, and it was easier for me to have people interviewed and creating content based on the conversation I was having with people. And for me, it was really powerful because first, it nourished my creativity, then it gave me almost free content to share online based on those conversations. And finally, it's a very powerful way to get more expertise as you go, as you meet other experts or other content creators in the space you want to develop. So this is definitely something I recommend for any people who want to start creating more content and being the explorer instead of being the expert by interviewing other people through podcasting, video podcasting, and so on. The second shift that you can do is thinking that you need to be a perfect creator, a photographer, a videographer, or just a creative to start sharing content online. The problem with this is that if you do that, you basically will never start, because if you start creating content without knowing how to use a camera, you just will never start because you don't know how to use a camera. And that's something that will stop you even before you started. And it's not because a lot of people you see on the platform like YouTube or like Instagram have great quality and crisp videos that it does have to be the same for you. And that's something that probably is stopping you because you think you need to be a Hollywood production before you even started to share your content online. Instead, what you can do is just using your phone and starting to record yourself like this, or like this if you're on vertical, and sharing your message, your adventure, your journeys, your quest, just by using your phone. Nowadays, our phones are great cameras, and just by having this and a bit of lightning, or just like a background like this outside, or wherever you want to film, is good enough to get started. And I even seen a lot of different content creators that were literally filming in their own car as they stopped and just filming like this, like a 5-10 minutes video, and they would do that once a week. And because they have been pretty consistent with the rhythm of their filming, but even if it wasn't crisp, even if it wasn't cinematic or beautiful visuals, they did that for a long time. And the most important thing was the message that they were sharing, more than being an artist or having the best light or the best visuals. And that's a great example of how it works. And even nowadays, even for me, one of the struggles I'm having is because I'm coming from a videography and photography background. I'm having sometimes a hard time just to record on my phone because I want to make it look good. But it could be even better if sometimes I would use my phone, because it would be give this feeling of more authenticity. And that's something you can use, especially nowadays, because a lot of people are really producing very high value content, and just using the camera is a good your phone is a good example of having more authentic content. So that's definitely something you should use more, and not being fixated on this idea that you need the last camera, the best audio, and the best everything. Definitely start using your phone, and that's a great start. The third shift is to think it's too scary to post your own story. And I get it, because even for me, sharing my personal story that is pretty heavy was really hard, and a lot of stress came with it. when I wanted to share more of me and my background. And the problem with this is that if you don't share your story, you don't put your personality into your content, and you basically not even start to share your content because you think your story don't matter. But if you share only content, tips, tricks without your story, it lacks the depth of having great content. And I personally observe around some of the creators I follow that some of them are just like giving tips, tricks, and that's nowadays, that's really easy to do that with ChatGPT. You just like put on ChatGPT, give me 3 tips on content creation, on losing weight, and then create content on that. But if you don't give more of your story, of your context in this piece of content with the tips, it's pretty flat and it's very hard to resonate and connect with the story of the creators. So that's a reason for you to put more of your story in every piece of content you are creating. And to be honest, one of the most powerful piece of content you can ever write or film or create is your My Story post or video. Because even if it's scary, and believe me, when I had to do that on Facebook Live, it was incredibly hard for me to do this. But by just doing this, it allowed me to express of who I am, give context to the viewers of my journey, where I started, what I had to overcome, and why I do what I do now. And just it gives space for the viewer, you, the audience, to connect with my story and resonate. And what I noticed when I did that exercise is that most people don't care, like I said before, and the right people will get attracted and resonate with story. So definitely do this. Try to put more of your story in the content, because that's how you can attract the right people that will resonate with your story. And just as an example, I'm pretty sure you follow quite a few creators, quite a few people who create content online that you love because you actually resonate with their values, their belief, the way they behave, and their story, basically. So that's a great proof of you that you need to put more story into your content. So start with that My Story video, My Story post, My Story carousel, and publish it online. And the fourth shift that you need to make is thinking that your content need to be perfect before you even post it. Because most starting creators and aspiring creators think that they need to create perfect content so that they can be published online. But most people who do that, there is a big problem. Is that in the time where you are tweaking your perfect post for 3 weeks, you haven't posted anything. And most of other creators have posted one piece of content every day, maybe 30 pieces of content when you haven't posted even one. And it keeps you stuck because you're afraid to be seen, you're afraid to share imperfection, and that's preventing you from creating the content, putting the reps, getting better. And that's a concept that I call miles over milestone. So what you want to do, instead of having a piece of content that is 100% perfect, you want more to target to 70% perfect type of content. So for example, if you write a post, you want it to be 70% perfect and just post it and move on to the next piece of content. And by doing that, it just relieves the pressure to having to create 100% content that is perfect. And it allows you to put the reps, to move on, to get better over time, because that's the practice that makes you become a better content creator. So remember this, miles over milestone. And I'm pretty sure you see a lot of creators you follow publish once a day and you think that their content is perfect, but in their mind they see their content as like 70-60% perfect. But because they'll be posting one post of content every time, once again, they are getting better and better, and their average 70% is getting higher than your perfect post. So that's why they have been putting more reps and more improvement in their content. So start posting your content even if it's not perfect. 70% is way enough. Miles over milestones. So to conclude this video, I want to give you 3 types of content you can start doing now and not being the expert. The first one is to be entertaining and documenting a journey you are on. So as I said before, behave as an explorer instead of the expert. So pick a journey you are on. So for example, if your journey is to learn how to run a marathon, maybe just like create content around that. I remember I had somebody on my podcast, he was a podcaster, and when he started to create content, he was creating content around beekeeping, so around bees. And because he didn't have much to say, he wanted just to document the journey to practice his content creation skills on beekeeping. And that's something you can do. So what's that thing? What's that journey you are on? The thing you are learning or trying to get better at. Could be running a marathon, could be learning a music instrument, it could be a big adventure like a travel I did, it could be a skills you want to learn, it could be a business you're launching. Any journey you are on, try to create content around that and just document the journey. The second piece of content you can create is education and your learnings type of content. So if you're going through a journey, like I said before, like you're starting to learn a music instrument, running a marathon, or just launching your business, just share what you've learned along the way. Educate based on what you have learned. That's how you can like share your beginning expertise on a topic. You don't need to know it all before you share your learnings. You can just share what you already know. And that's an easy type of content to create. And the third type of content you can start to create is starting a podcast and interview experts or people around a certain topic. That's probably the best type of content you can create because it relieves the pressure of you creating the whole content, and then you will learn along the way as you interview people on a certain topic, and you can share clips of the conversation on your social media. So it's a win-win-win. So definitely starting a podcast, having interviews online or offline with people that interest you on a specific topic is a great way to create content, to gain expertise, and just to share journey you are on and just looking for the answer so that you can share with your audience. So that's the third type of content. So if we just make a summary about the 4 shifts and the 3 type of content you can do. So for the 4 shift, first, don't force yourself to act as an expert. Share your journey and be the expert instead. Second, don't think you need to be a creative or know everything about a camera or shooting photo before you start creating content. Use your phone, it's way good enough to get started. Third, sharing your story is scary, but most people won't care. So that's a good news. Only the right people will connect with your story. And fourth point, stop being a proud perfectionist. That's just fear in disguise. Just target for 70% perfect and just hit publish. And to finish it off and to summarize again the 3 type of content, just document the journey and entertain about the journey you are on. So that's the first type of content you can do. The second type of content you can do is to just share your knowledge and educate based on what you have already learned. And the third type of content you can create is start a podcast interviewing people or experts on a very specific topic. And we're coming to the end of this podcast episode, and I want to finish this episode by saying that, as you have seen in this episode, you don't need to be an expert to start creating content. Be the expert instead. If you want to connect more with me, follow me on Instagram at BlazyPalance, or just give me a follow here on YouTube for more videos like this coming.